What is going on, people? Leo here from Creative Tech Lab, and today we are going to be talking about the Sony A7S III, a camera that I have desperately been waiting on. This camera is in charge of my entire future video work. Hyperbole, maybe just a little bit, but let's get into it. First and foremost, welcome to Creative Tech Lab. My name is Leo. This is the YouTube channel to accompany our website, creativetechlab.com, where we do talk about all things creative, including mainly right now around music creation on the website. And here on the channel, we talk a lot about run and gun videography. So if you're into any of those two things, please go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. You will not be disappointed, and I would greatly appreciate it. So before we get into the actual video, I just want to go ahead and drop a disclaimer. This video is somewhat speculation. It is, I guess, it is what I think features we could possibly be getting in the Sony A7S III based on the recent release of the FX9 camera. If it is that you're looking for something else, God knows what that could be based on the thumbnail and the title. But if it is that you're looking for something else, I don't want to waste any of your time or for you to do anything else. Maybe you'll catch me in another video, or maybe you could go find that something else somewhere else. However, for my A7S III dreamers, for the people with some imagination, please come along for a ride, because there are a few exciting things that I think did come out in the higher line Sony FX9 camera that will filter down to whenever and whatever the A7S III will potentially be. So like many video enthusiasts slash YouTubers, or should we say hybrid shooters, whatever it is that means, we have been highly anticipating, actually to say that we have been highly anticipating the release of the Sony A7S III would actually be a bit of an understatement. And if you're like me, I've been hanging on to a thread with every single tweet that @Sony Alpha Rumors drops. He's actually in charge of my mood on a day-to-day basis, whether or not I get some new news on this particular camera. Now, just to give a little bit of a background here, the Sony A7S II was released almost 4 years ago. Since then, we've had the A7R III, the A7 III, and just recently the A7R IV. So to say that we're behind is an understatement. Now, there's been numerous amount of speculation on why this A7S III has not come out yet and why it has been delayed. Now, the explanation, or should I say theory, that I've heard that made the most sense to me came from a fellow YouTuber, Matt at Who Is Matt Johnson. I will link his video up here. But in summary, what his theory is that in 2016 there was an earthquake in Japan that affected the Sony sensor lab, and that since then they've just been behind on production units. It is a theory, but it does seem to be a plausible one. Some other people tend to think that Sony is trying to pack as many features into the Sony A7S III that will blow the market away, like the CEO promised in a previous interview, but they're trying to do so without not taking away from their higher line cinema cameras. To me, that doesn't seem like Sony. Sony seems to understand the way that innovation and tech works, in terms of the fact that they've never been afraid to disrupt themselves before somebody else does. That's just not like them, unlike some of the other camera companies. Canon, we're talking to you. So with that being said, I think the recent release of the Sony FX9 camera could definitely give us some inference or some ideas on what could be coming to the Sony A7S III. So first of all, let's talk about the sensor. The sensor is a 19 megapixel Exmor backlit sensor that seems like the perfect megapixel count for the A7S III. I don't think they need to go too large on the pixel count, especially for a video-centric camera. This pixel count would actually give us exactly what we're looking for from the A7S III, which would be low noise and great low light capabilities out of the camera. So this sensor, it would be capable of things that we already know. So it would be capable of 6K, but that 6K would be downsampled to 4K, which I would completely be okay with this. Some people have been speculating about 8K. I do think that would be overkill and not necessary on this camera. Now on the FX9, the sensor is capable of what they're quoting of 15 stops of dynamic range. The picture quality looks amazing from the test footage that Sony has put out. Then it also has blazing fast hybrid autofocus, which is to be expected. Sony has some of the best autofocus in the game, second to a few other camera companies out there. However, in the test footage from Philip Bloom's video, he did a test. He just had the camera for a little bit and he tested. The autofocus looks insane. So that's something that I definitely think is going to trickle down into the A7S III. Is just another step of autofocus that we're going to see there. I'll link to Philip Bloom's video either up here in the card or down below. Then the FX9 also has a built-in electronic ND filter, which Sony is quoting as saying to be the first of its kind of a camera of this style. This would be a very, very, very welcome feature on the A7S III. This would be one of those features that you could say would blow people's mind. I think built-in ND filter straight into the camera. People would still want to use their external NDs, but to just have one just built in, especially if it was good to stop down light when you're on the go, particularly for us hybrid shooters, this one would be a very big deal, and one that, again, crossing my fingers to hope that that one comes through. And then of course the FX9 is sporting 10-bit color, which might be, not sure if that's a downgrade on this expensive of a camera. However, this is what we're definitely looking for in terms of color science from Sony on the A7S III. 100% we're going to need 10-bit color. So I think that the FX9 is sporting 10-bit 422, which would be a great codec. And then from a color science standpoint, it's also sporting its new S-Cinetone picture profile, which is kind of built for anyone that wants to get that cinematic look but doesn't want to spend too much time color grading. I will say the in-camera look that we've seen in the test, again in that same Philip Bloom video that I referenced, I'll definitely link it down below since I'm talking about it twice. The picture quality that just came out of it in terms of the colors, he said he did no color grading and it looks movie ready, primetime ready, definitely good for anything that would be on YouTube. I think that would quickly become my new favorite picture profile. And then of course you could still, the FX9 also still sports S-Log in HDR, HLG, which is my current favorite picture profile. So I think all that will be packed in to the A7S III as well. So back to the sensor mixed in with the camera capabilities. So at release of the camera of the FX9, Sony is saying that the camera can shoot in 4K at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second in full frame, and then in Super 35 mode with a crop, it can shoot up to 60 frames per second. However, Sony does say there will be a future update which will allow the camera to shoot in full frame at a higher resolution of 4K in 24, 25, 30 frames per second, and then additionally in full frame at 60 frames per second. And then there will be some higher frame rates with the crop. So we're looking at what I think will be full frame 4K 60 frames per second. That's what I think we'll get in the A7S III, and I think that would be a very, very, very welcome thing. I think we're looking for some high frame rates in 4K that we could still crop in and do whatever it is, video transitions and stuff that we need to do, especially if we're trying to get stabilization and all that stuff in 4K in a high frame rate is something that most video shooters are looking for on this camera. It's in the FX9, or at least coming to the FX9, and I think that feature will again filter down into the alpha camera. Now, I don't know if we would get all these features in the A7S III. However, I do think if all these features do filter down, it would make everybody that's been anticipating this camera way more than happy. This is definitely something that I would go out and purchase as soon as it came out. However, it is important to note that it will be no small feat to get these features to filter down into the A7S III. Even though we're talking about the FX9, this is a cinema type camera. It's a way bigger camera. I think it would be a big engineering feat in order to pack all these features down into a Sony mirrorless compact body. I think one of the things obviously that they're facing right now as Sony is trying to pack all these things down into the mirrorless body and find a way to dissipate heat. This is a known issue. I think they may either have to make the body a little bit bigger, or maybe they can do some engineering magic and figure that out. But I think that's probably is the main holdup as they're trying to pack all these features into a small area. The physics is just not working with them right now, and I think that might be the main problem that they're running into is overheating issues and trying to figure it out. I think if they just made it a little bit bigger though, the A7R4 body is slightly bigger than the 3. I think if they did that and they're able to figure it out, that little bit of a change would still be enough. I think we've waited long enough. If we got the features and it was a little bit bigger, I think that'd be something I'd be okay with. But all that being said, while it is completely exciting to think that the video features from the FX9 may filter down and the Sony A7S III may be on the horizon, the last few weeks we've kind of just been back in limbo again. The rumors that have come out recently have had nothing to do with the A7S III. Everything right now seems to be lining up for October for the A9 to come out, and then potentially the A7S III could be dropped, maybe hopefully this year still. Please Sony. However, right now, as far as stuff that I've seen in the last week or so, it may seem like it may get pushed all the way to 2020, which would be a complete bummer, especially with heated competition coming from Panasonic and some other cameras that are jumping into the game right now. And another indication that say that it may be 2020 was the update that I mentioned that would have that 4K 60 in the FX9 did say that that future update would not be ready until 2020. Obviously 2020 is a year that most camera companies are gearing up for because of the Olympics. They want to have all their photo and all their video cameras ready to go, both on the pro level and on the consumer, or what we should say prosumer level, for the Olympics. Nobody wants to miss that. That's a big event for all camera companies. But even though 2020 might be the thing, I don't think I could wait until 2020. I might have to find either another solution or maybe just pull the trigger on the A7 III and then wait for whatever A7S could come out. There's also some speculation that they might just skip the naming on A7S III and just pack the features in and call it a A7S IV. We'll see how that kind of goes. However, I am still hanging on to a thread and hoping that Sony could get this out by November. So we'll see how that goes once the A9 is released. And then please, in the comments, tell me what you think. Do you think the A7S III is coming out this year? Do you think these features from the FX9 actually indicates what Sony will be doing in terms of new color science and the whole S-Cinetone and all that stuff, and built-in ND filters and 4K 60? And then again, this video was just a video of my thoughts. It's something that, as far as from a camera perspective, it's something that I think about on a daily basis. I really want to go ahead and pull the trigger on an interchangeable lens camera, particularly what this camera is speculated to be. So let me know in the comments if you think all this stuff is going to be happening, or if it happens sometime soon, or if you're waiting, or if you were waiting and you decided to go in a different direction. Again, this was just a video to think about what it is the camera may be. As creators, we have vivid imagination, so I just thought we'd go ahead and put a little bit of facts and things that are potentially out there with the imagination to go ahead and do it. Anyway, we will catch you in the next video. I do have a whole ton more content on a completely different type camera, the Sony RX100 line of cameras. Again, pocket alpha cameras, as I like to call them. So look out for that. Look out for some more music creation stuff, and we will catch you in the next video. go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, do what YouTubers tell you to do, and I will catch you in the next one.